Hello, welcome to Juhl Media. My name's Ching Juhl. This is the live interview. Today, my special guest is Bruce Nelson, a filmmaker, producer, director, author from Arizona. All right, let's welcome Bruce. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Nice to see you
Excited to be
again.
here. Let's see. Let's jump right in. What you got going today?
Yeah. So tell us what we met today virtually, today
Yes,
and
first
then this
we're in the B
morning.
word today,
Yeah.
talking a little bit. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm always interested to talk about my projects, let you know what's happening in my world, but documentaries I'm working on, exhibits. I just curated a festival not too long ago called Take Me to the Water. It was really good here in Macy. Had lots of people turn out. So I'm working on a couple of docs right now and just want to share it with everybody. So let's get started.
Yeah, tell us the latest work, which is called "Looking for Laura Nelson."
Looking for Laura Nelson is a current project. I'm in development that I'm working on a sizzle reel for that right now. The editor and I met last week. And this story, I came about it accidentally. I did one of those DNA testing things, to find out, what your ethnic background is. And I had somebody reach out to me on Ancestry on their website, said, "Hey, I think we're related cousins." I'm like, "What are you talking about? No way." And she goes, "Yeah, we're cousins." And I thought it was somebody. They're always from Nigeria. They want you to send them some money and then you get $1 million. I was like, "No, I don't want to do that." And we talked on the phone, and she was like, "No, I think we're cousins." And we talked, and we found we had some people in common. So I talked to her on the phone, and I'm like, "Wow, we are. How we're related?" Her grandmother and my grandfather were brother and sister.
Wow, wow.
I'm like, "Oh, that's
So
crazy." And so then she got her brothers on the phone. One of the guys was like almost 90 years old. We were just really laughing about different names. And I said, "Well, look, we'll stay in touch. They're in Oklahoma." I said, "Well, let's stay in touch." She said, "Before you go," she goes, "I want you to look up." She said, "You ever heard of Okima?" And I'm like, "Well, there was a city in Arizona called Okima." She goes, "No, not that one, a different one." So I'm like, "Well, no, I don't think I know what you're talking about." She goes, "Well, just Google Laura Nelson," and I'm going to put that in the chat, and then you can
hmm,
pull it up.
yeah.
So I
Are
Googled
you
it,
talking about the
and her.
trailer? No.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh,
Let me put this. I'm going to put this in the chat. Laura
okay.
Nelson, and her. That is my. She's my uncle's wife, and
Mm-hmm.
she was lynched in 1911 along with her son. And so I'm doing a documentary about that journey. I'm going to go there to the different places and see if we can just kind of look around in those places. And they have photographs of her, and you've probably seen it. Most of the time when they talk about lynching, they talk about Laura Nelson. It's one of the few photos they have of a woman that's been lynched,
Hmm.
and they use it a lot. I've seen it a lot, and so I'm putting in the chat. There you go.
Hmm.
There've been a
Okay.
lot of things. There's one woman that made a quilt
Hmm.
about her, and
Oh,
another
look at this.
man guy made it. Yeah, do you see that link there?
Yeah, I'm gonna show us. Okay. Um.
Yeah, share that.
Yeah. Hmm. You see it now?
Yes, there she is.
Yeah.
They took her to that bridge and they lynched her from that bridge.
Wow.
Her and her son. Isn't that just so awful?
Yeah. Wow. 19.
And all those
How
people
long?
standing around, they were taking pictures, they were having food, and
Oh my
just
gosh.
horrible. Isn't that horrible?
Oh my god. Yeah. Wow. So, so how do you start? Are you already are you writing it? Is this a documentary, right?
Yes, a documentary. So
Yeah.
I grabbed some footage from I did an interview at the airport. Peter
Uh,
Crosby did an interview,
oh.
so I'm talking about it. So I'm doing a sizzle reel. I'm going to have that ready probably in about a week and a half.
Mm,
And then I'm going to put it out there in the world for people to see. I've
mm,
already talked to people I want to interview. I'm going to go to the site. The bridge is not there, but the area is still there. So I'm going to go there, and hopefully
where is this image captured? Like
this is in
this is
Oklahoma.
1911. Oh,
19 in Oklahoma.
so
It's a near city called Okemah, Oklahoma.
I see. Yeah. Oh,
Isn't that horrible?
That's terrible. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what's in development. I'm working on that right now.
Okay.
Which hopefully we can go shoot in the fall, which would be great.
Yeah. So then you tell us a little bit backwards, a little bit about how you became a film director, filmmaker, and also you do a lot of footworks as well. And tell us where is all this journey come from? Is your parents artsy, or you stay in a very artistic environment? Yeah, how does that come from?
So I am really an actor first. That's what I did for a long time.
I see.
So I did a lot of theater, and then I started doing films. And I did a lot of films. I did about 8 or 9 films. And so I grew up in a segregated community here in Mesa, Arizona. And so I wanted to do a documentary about my community. I thought, you know what? Things are changing. People are not going to know about that community unless I do something. So I wrote a grant and got very little money. And I never did a documentary before. So I started going on YouTube, watching how to make a documentary. I called people because I watch a lot of documentaries on PBS. And so I got some money, and I had this big grand idea of what I thought it would look like. And I was like, well, I don't have enough money for that. I had enough money to shoot for one day.
Wow.
So I called a friend of mine. She's a producer. She said, don't worry about paying me. She goes, the story you need to tell. So she came on board, and then we hired a DP. We had sound person. So we had a couple, like 2 or 3 staff, production team. And then we called around everybody. We went to one location. I told people, come here and we'll interview you and tell me your story about growing up in that neighborhood. And so people came. We interviewed a lot of people. And then I started walking through the neighborhood, and I would just knock on somebody's door and say, hey, I'm making a film. Do you want to be in the film? And some of them said, yeah. Some of them said, no, get away from me. No, leave me alone.
You're canvassing and knock on people's door. Yeah. And so eventually, does that film made? Like, what is it called?
I finished it. It's called Northtown, Heritage of a Black Community. It's on Amazon. People can watch it there. We have a trailer. You have a trailer we can show.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Northtown, right here. Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
We recount a part of American history that has been largely forgotten and overlooked. For several decades, the residents of Mesa, Arizona lived in a world apart.
Mesa is the kind of place where the rest of the world just sort of passes.
Because I didn't know much about the civil rights movement here in town. You know, we couldn't eat in the restaurants.
The police stopped me one time, and the police asked me, what are you doing in this neighborhood? You know, I said, hold on, I live in this neighborhood. I'm getting ready to go to work.
Despite the challenges they faced, the residents of this segregated neighborhood managed to build a community that was the home to respected leaders, renowned athletes, professionals, businessmen, and recognized educators. Join us as we hear from the residents themselves as they tell their memories of a time and place called Northtown, the heritage of a Black community.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So it got into about We got into about 8 festivals. I sent you the link there. It's available on Amazon Prime. You can watch it really cheap. You can click on the link. People go sign up, watch it. I need the money. Please go watch it.
How much?
You'll like it.
$2.99 or $1.99?
Cheap.
$2, just like
$1.99.
mine. Huh?
Yeah.
$1.99.
Cheap.
I can.
$1.99. Cheap to see. Go check it out. It's 65 minutes.
65 minutes. Okay, so let's call North, right? NORT.
Yeah, I just put the link in the chat. There you go. You can click on
yeah,
there.
put the link. Okay. Let me get
That's it. Good. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, support the arts and support filmmakers. That's what we do. And I'll go put in the chart. Here we go.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
So
we're
this
showing it
is
again in the fall, probably here at the Mesa International Film Festival. We'll probably show it again there.
oh, that's great. And it's very
in October.
when you you told me when we first know each other. Yeah, it's through Peter, through D word. Is the documentary word, right? And that's, hold on one second. I'm just writing it down. North Town, 56. Did you say 56 minutes? How long?
65.
65, sorry. 65
minutes. Yeah.
minutes. Yeah. Amazon. Now, tell me about Amazon. I understand you have your own way of distribute films, and you get to your film go to see like educational institutions, conferences. Can you tell us a little bit about your route of distribution other than Amazon?
So I licensed it to a couple universities. They have it in their libraries. So I did a license deal with them. And then I've gone to some conferences, the Privilege Conference, and then I was down in Tucson with the YWCA, their organization. And then there were some hospitals that were celebrating Black History Month and Juneteenth. And so we did a screening online, and then they did a Zoom meeting talking to the filmmaker. So I still do a lot of those, and I send people the link. They can watch it, and then we talk about the film and the work and the message. And they talk about the community, growing up in a segregated community. So that's kind of the hook. People want to know about that. So it's really about I love doing the conferences, and I love traveling. We're probably going to be in Toronto showing the film at a festival there. And then there's a group that says, we want you to come after the festival and talk to our people. With the whole diversity, inclusion, and all that, this is a great film for that. It leads you into racism and segregation. It's a great way to introduce that to companies. And so companies have reached out to me, and then I do a whole package. I do like a whole discussion about it, help them out with it. So really that alternative way of getting films out in the world. And it's been on Amazon a while. I may eventually pull it down there because they don't pay very much. And it's better to do the conferences, which is kind of really, really cool. But yeah, it's kind of like that. I'm talking to 2 other universities. They want to put it in their libraries. So what they do is the professors use it. They use it in the classrooms, and they talk about it. Usually they have me come, which is really nice. So I come live and I talk to the students, and so give you a direct account of what it was like growing up in a segregated community.
I did not know.
It's not that long ago.
I did not know Phoenix has the community like you were in, because I was in Phoenix, Arizona for 7 years. I always feel the whole city is so white. I don't see, other like diversity. There's no diversity, it's all cowboys and white. What do you think? I really, seriously.
No, you're right. It is. I mean, we do have in my small town, which is like a little suburb of Phoenix, Mesa. They have what they call the Asian district. And that's really nice. And that's just recent. That's in the last 8 or 9 years. And it's a great little area, great grocery stores there, wonderful restaurants. You can shop and get stuff. But it's a really small area. You know, you really don't, that's part of it. We have a huge population of folks from Polynesian in Mesa, and they have a festival. And when they have the festival, you're like, wow, where did all these people come from? You didn't know there were so many people from Polynesian here. Like, yeah, there's a lot. But they're not in, you know, all living in one area. So it's kind of hard to find them. But Phoenix had a segregated community too. But the freeway came through and just destroyed that. So that community is pretty much gone now. But yeah, we're predominantly, we have a nice Latino population, but they're not in one area. They're spread out, kind of thing. But no, it's pretty much white bread here in Arizona. What can I tell you?
Yeah, very white. To me, very white. And so tell us a little bit about your Tally Award-winning film, a short film. It's called Tales of Tobacco. Tell us about that film.
Tales of Tobacco. I was working in California, working with a group doing educational theater for young people about like smoking, drugs. And so I wrote a play called Tales of Tobacco, and I took all these characters and we put them in a play. We did a takeoff on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We did a thing. You remember back in the 90s, there was a character, Joe Camel, that sold Camel cigarettes. And so we put that character, and I had these scum guys do a rap about it. And so then I thought, you know, it was really great as a play. I thought it might be good as a film or a short film anyway. So I wrote a grant, and I hired some actors, and we were able to pay them a little bit of money. And so we shot the whole thing, and we submitted it to the Telly Awards, and it got in and it won. And then it got into a festival like over in somewhere in the Ukraine or somewhere crazy. People really, really liked it. And then there was a guy in New York that used it for education. So that came out of educating young people about smoking. And then we took the character, Joe Camel, we called him Bo Camel. And so we had a funeral for him. We thought, okay, he died from smoking. And all the people that come to visit him were the Marlboro Man, Virginia Slimes. They came to pay homage to him. And then I had these two guys rapping. And it did really, really well. It's still around. We did a takeoff on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The guy was called Mr. Roscoe. And he has all these people coming to visit him, and they all smoke, and they all suffer from smoke. So Mr. Roscoe says, you know, welcome to Mr. Roscoe's Neighborhood. Our word today is cancer. Can you say that? So we show what cancer does to the body. And then the gardener comes in, and he's smoking, and he has a heart attack. So Mr. Roscoe says, see there? That's what happens when you smoke. So he's sitting talking, and the guy's having a heart attack right down next to him. Shaking stuff.
Yeah.
So the kids loved it. The young people loved it.
And
then we had
like a comedy, right?
Yeah, it was comedy. Then we had one girl come on, and she was pregnant. And he says, Mr. Roscoe said, should you be smoking? That could hurt your baby. She goes, oh, no, he'll be all right. So she's smoking. And so then he's interviewing her, and then she has the baby.
Yeah.
It was just over the top humor that worked really, really well. So Telly, we sent it to Telly, submitted it. I think we got best comedy education something, which I was very excited about. And so now I'm cutting it up into little pieces and doing each scene. So I'm going to put that into the world pretty soon. So I'll let you know when that happens.
That's wonderful.
That was the award-winning Telly Award we got. So I'm very happy about that.
That's awesome. Now, let's see. We have a couple of other reels. Let's see. Wait, we already talked about CJ. Let's see.
Oh, CJ Run. We haven't talked about that yet. No.
Oh, okay. CJ Run. All right. Here we go. CJ Run. All right. So tell us a little bit about this.
So you can scroll down and we can watch the trailer all the way down.
Okay, we'll watch your trailer right here. right?
There you go. Watch the
Yeah,
trailer
yeah, we can make it
and
bigger.
do a
Like
full
this.
screen. And there
Yeah,
we go.
okay.
You'll
Can we
like it.
watch it first? You talk about it?
Let's watch
Or
it
you talk?
first. Yeah,
Okay,
let's
all right.
watch it first.
Hold on a second. Bruce, can you mute your mic, please? Okay, while we watch.
The reason my father didn't want to go back is he said that the country is gone. The country that he and my grandparents and my great-grandparents lived in is not necessarily the country that should have survived. It was a colonized country, and I am not for colonization, but I am a product of it. Life was just really hard, with our whole exodus and having to wait 6 years in the Netherlands and then finally arriving here. And now here was this television set inside of our apartment that the church people gave us. I would watch like the Mickey Mouse Club. And I couldn't figure out how people got inside the box. And then I learned that, there were actors and actresses. And I started to pretend that I was inside the box and I would write stories. We went to Oregon to visit my aunties and uncles, and he said, "Jane, what are you going to be when you grow up?" And I said, "I am going to be an actress." And when we got home, my father, he took me into the hallway and he held me and he said, "You're going to high school. You soon will be on your own, and I now forbid you to ever say that again. They do bad things to actresses in America." And he said, "You must promise me." And I said, "Yes, Papa." It's not about this little girl. It's about all the little girls that come after me. Those are the ones that matter, not me. So I decided to form this movement and call it AGE.
Wow, it's pretty powerful, huh?
Yeah. So tell us more about it.
So See Jane Run is an American Indo story. Jane is what they call Indonesian and Dutch, which you don't hear a lot about, that folks. And so I met her on a Zoom call, and I just love her story. So she was writing a book, and so we took her book and we're turning it into a documentary. And we went to Portland, where she lives, and we interviewed her there and some of her friends. And she talks about her father, as you heard. He was tortured during the war. She talks about, when she was in Indonesia and they had to leave, and they went to the Netherlands, and then they finally came to America. And so we are following her tracks and going back. So we went to Portland and we talked to some friends of hers who met her and know her and love her. And then we were fortunate, executive producer, the filmmaker I'm directing, Brenda Foley, she was able to raise enough funding, and we went to Indonesia. And we were there shooting for about 8 or 9 days. So we took a small crew. We took Jane with us, and we visited a lot of places and talked to some historians. We went to a cemetery to pay homage to that. And we met some wonderful people, went to a university, went to a museum. And so we're just telling her story. We're in post-production right now. We're probably going to have another trailer put together with some of the footage that we shot. And I'm very proud of this film. I think it's going to be a wonderful film. I think people are going to just embrace it. So we're looking for different partners to work with. And it's going to be really, really nice. So it's called See Jane Run, an Indo story. Because we don't see a lot of stories about the Asian community. And so I think this is very important to know their perspective on World War II, because we only hear what Americans say about it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear about the tragedy that it caused other people. So I'm really excited about this. And Jane is just so powerful. We've been back and forth talking to her probably every maybe once a month. We talk to her a little bit, see what she's doing. She does a lot of presentations about her book. And so we're working on the doc. We're just, like I said, we're in post and starting to put some footage together. The next time we meet, we'll probably have a new trailer with some footage from when we were in Indonesia. And I had a blast there. It was definitely a culture shock. when I got there, because they drive on the other side of the street, first
Oh
of all.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like, oh, okay. And just, their perspective on the world is very different.
I
So
hear some Chinese, almost like a Chinese music in the trailer.
yeah, we took some traditional Indonesian music with that sound. We thought it was kind of fun to play with that. There was a composer in the D Word today that was there, and we're talking to her. She's probably going to do the score for us when we get there. But when we were there in Indonesia, Brenda's the executive director in our film. She's blonde, blue-eyed, and you have the black guy here. So every time we go someplace, people would stare at us. They weren't mean. They were just kind of like, "Oh, who are you?" Like,
Yeah.
They didn't see a lot of people like that around, so they were very nice, but they just kind of stared and like, "Oh."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we really stood
So-
out. And she's tall too.
So in Indonesia, do they have do you see much African American people?
I saw one other guy
Oh, yeah.
in the airport.
Oh, yeah. In the airport. Yeah.
But when I was walking around, we went to restaurants every day, different restaurant.
Yeah.
I didn't see any at all.
Yeah.
Nowhere. And the food was just wonderful. The food was so good. But I did learn that my idea of mild spice and their idea of mild spice is very different.
Oh, I didn't know their food can be spicy. Is that very
Yes, and
spicy
so
for
I
you?
said, when I ordered, they went, how do you want it? I said, give me a mild. And I brought it and I eat. I go, whoa, I asked for a mild. They go, that is mild. I'm like, oh my goodness.
That's funny.
I was like, okay, don't put any on it because it was so spicy. But it tasted great. I loved it. I was just eating it. I was like, oh God, it was great. We had a wonderful time, a lot of fresh fish, because from the ocean, a lot of fresh fish, great vegetables, some vegetables I had, some of the vegetables are just in their country. And everything was just, the people were so nice. When we got in our first hotel, we got there and they had green tea when we came in, and they were like, here. As soon as we came in, they gave us some tea to drink. Everybody was just very, very polite. We learned a lot about the culture and how to treat people. And we were in Jakarta, and Jakarta is just busy. We got in like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and there were people everywhere on the street.
What? In the morning?
On the little scooter. Yeah, and in the morning, on the little scooters. You see those everywhere. And there were no lines in the road. They just drive. I'm like, oh my God.
They're very different.
It was great.
Yeah.
Great experience. Had a wonderful time. So we're working on that. It looks pretty good. Next time we talk, I'll have a new trailer for you to show it. So I'm excited.
So this film is in post right now.
We're in post right now.
I see. How long you predict? How long the film?
It'll be a feature length.
Oh, feature.
Yeah, it'll be a feature. It'll be at least 60 minutes.
Oh, okay. When people say
we interviewed a lot of people.
When people say
What's
feature these days, exactly what is a feature now? Long time ago, it's like 70 minutes. Now it's like they say 50 minutes above also consider feature. What is the feature now?
For documentaries, 60 minutes is kind of like a feature. 60 minutes or more.
Okay.
So, but then when you get on PBS, they want you to cut it down to like 57 minutes. But 60 minutes or more, most of the film festivals, if you have a documentary and it's 60 minutes plus, they consider that a feature. A narrative is like 80 to 90 minutes or 80 to 120 minutes, 85. But for documentaries, 60 minutes is kind of feature length. And then I have a short doc that we work on. But yeah, so we're gonna fall definitely 60 minutes. We may be a little longer, but we'll definitely do 60 minutes. We have a lot of footage. We shot on the train. We were on the train and we shot on the train. We had our DP. They used the iPhone because we weren't supposed to be shooting on the train, but we used the iPhone. So we looked like tourists. So So it's just like
Yeah.
a tour. So yeah, they didn't know. And then the hotel, same thing. We just don't use we're using Black Magic cameras. We use iPhone, and it looks beautiful because shot in 4K, it looks beautiful. So yeah, 60 minutes is kind of the standard now. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be a blast. So I can't wait to start showing some more of that stuff.
So the beauty of the iPhone is that it's less intrusive, and you can do it in situations people don't know you're making film, right? So you don't need to get permission, or people do not take you seriously when you shoot with a smartphone, because seems everybody is shooting. So that's really great, and the
Yeah.
quality
And like you
of
say,
the
you can shoot in 4K, which is great.
yeah.
And just have to adjust your settings, the ratio specs, and they shoot like 35 frames or 30 frames. They can make it adjust. They can shoot a higher frame if they need to. If we're going to be moving, they can adjust in the camera. And sometimes they'll put filters or lens on there. Sometimes they'll do that. But it looks like everybody's just got their phone and doing that. And then we even, because wireless microphones now. So the sound person was sitting next door. Looks like he had on his headphones. Looked like he was just listening to music. He was recording all the sound. He had his backpack, and they thought, oh, he's got a backpack. No, he had his own sound equipment in there, and it was all cordless, wireless.
Yeah.
So sound's going to be great. Picture's going to look great. So yeah, we're really thrilled about that.
That's so cool. Yeah. And now, rewind a little bit. Where were you born?
I was born right here in Mesa, Arizona.
Oh, okay.
I was born here. I grew up here. Went to school here. Back in the 70s. I grew up in the 60s and 70s here in Mesa. I lived other places. I lived in LA for like 15 years. I lived in Toronto for like 6 years. I really liked Toronto. It was just too cold.
Too cold? Oh.
Too cold.
I've never been there. Yeah.
But yeah, I was an actor there. That's all I did. I was with Second City Toronto.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever have a voice training? Because your voice is very resonant.
Yes, I studied Shakespeare. I studied Chekhov. I did all that stuff. Yes.
Yes. Very, very beautiful voice. Yeah. And now,
Great. Thank you.
Speaking of filmmaking, there's so many elements, right? You say if you want to make a narrative film, you need to have a good script, or you write your own script, right? And then you have to have money to do it, producer, and then you have to find production, and then after you shoot, and you have to edit, and then development, distribution. Which part for you is the most difficult, or the most challenge, I would say?
For a documentary, it's always about finding the funding. It's really hard to find the money to make a documentary. That's the biggest challenge, I think, for me and for most filmmakers that do documentaries, because you need to pay the crew, because you want the best crew you can get, and it just takes time. But with documentaries, one of my favorite parts about documentaries is doing the research. I love doing the research if I'm doing something historical or just something that's not historical. I like that. I like getting online. I like going through magazines, books, looking at old newspapers to find articles. And that to me is exciting, and I would start doing that before I even have any money. I'll start crafting what I think the story is. And then hopefully I can put together enough stuff to get some money. I was in the gym. I go to the gym like every other day. And there's a couple of guys we talk all the time. And one of the guys I talked to, he's from Nigeria. And we were talking, and it turns out that he is a former Olympic runner. And I said, yeah. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, when did you compete? And he said, well, 76 and 1976 and 1980. So I was talking to him again today. I said, well, 1976, that's when the Africans boycotted the Olympics in Montreal. He goes, yeah, I was there. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, I was there. He goes, we did the big ceremony. We had our breakfast. We're getting ready to go out and get in the games. And word came down that they were not going to participate. And they told all the athletes, go to the airport, put them on the plane. And they didn't tell them what was happening. They just go to the airport and they sent them back. And so back then, one of the leaders was protesting against South Africa. And because they didn't feel like South Africa should be allowed to compete in the Olympic Games because of their way of life over there. I mean, they were just like, that's just not okay with that. And so they took him all away. So he didn't get to compete. Like, oh man, yeah, it was quite devastating. And so I'm listening to, I said, well, so when did you compete again? He did 77, 78. Then he went to the 1980s Olympics. And I'm like, this is an interesting story. I said, are there any other guys still around? He goes, yeah, the couple guys, they live in Arizona. And so I said to him, I want to do a documentary about you guys. And he's like, no, man, I don't. But I'm going to get him to do it. I'm going to get him because I think that's a great story. Because you're talking over, 2026, 1976, 40 years, like almost 50 years. It'd be great to go back and talk to those guys. Say, how do you feel now watching the Olympics? A very different way of training then. So there's always stories out there. Always, as you probably know, there's always stories. But again, it's always about how do you find the financing? How do you get the money to do it? You don't want to steal it. You want to borrow, trade. You don't want to sell a kidney or anything like that. But you got to find the money.
Yeah, I know. So the for documentary, the most challenge thing is finding funds, right? And for narrative, what do you say? Narrative film.
Narrative is you find it, like you said, a good story, or you write your own.
No, what's the most challenging thing? What's the most challenging part of filmmaking in narrative?
For making a narrative, I've only made one. It's called Raglan Tales. It's a short. Okay. Wow, what's the most challenging? God, again, money. But a lot of times actors will work for free because they want to, have something to look at. So that's okay. Yeah, they want exposure, so they'll work for free. But when you get into it, it's finding the locations that you need.
Right.
That could be a challenge. Finding location, people where you can shoot, or people let you shoot.
Right.
That sometimes can be. Finding a crew is pretty easy. Finding the actors, but you got to really come up with a good story. You got to really, and if you could just write it yourself, then you write it yourself. You need to go through 3 or 4 or 5 rewrites before you get it where you want it.
Right.
For a narrative. So I have another narrative that I'm working on. It's not finished yet, but I'm working on another one. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I guess always, anytime doing film, money is always the catalyst to do it. Do you get it done or not? Right.
Yeah, which one? Yeah, which one is that? Oh, wait. Do you have any reel to share?
From Raglan Tales, I don't have any. It's a 12-minute film. I don't have a trailer for that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, but I do have a trailer for my other documentary. We have that Gospel Radio Man.
Oh, Gospel Radio.
We have that. You want to pull that one up?
Wait, I don't think I have it. I have Northtown. Oh, I have Marty Case Digital. Is it what is it? I have Red Line. Oh, Veteran.
Oh, let's do Red Line.
Shall we do
Red
that?
Lines. Let's do Red Lines.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the documentary. We're in post-production on that. Let's take a watch of that first, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. Mute yourself, please.
dad was a military man. He took to the military like a duck to water.
When you come time for you to train, you just march around the whole facility with a big gun. That's like protecting the area. That's part of your training. And that's what I didn't like. But you had to do what you had to do, you know.
I think my dad came back with PTSD that they knew nothing about then. He had a lot of issues with his drinking after he came back.
The military, it seems like, was where he kind of blossomed. He really took to military life. He was good at it. I talked to one of my uncles who was in the military. He was a ranger at the same time my dad was in the service. He said at that time, it was amazing how rapidly my father moved through the ranks, being a minority. He said, you just didn't see that.
He was part of the segregated troops with the black soldiers and the Mexican soldiers.
When I got my papers to go to service, that's the first time I ever seen my dad cry.
I think it affected him so much that he just didn't like, talking about it.
It was a shock, when the president called. I could not believe it.
She was in such shock. She said, I felt so bad because I called him Mr. Obama instead of Mr. President when I talked to him. And she said, I felt so bad about that after I hung up the phone. I said, I'm sure he understood, Mother.
Let's unmute yourself, dear.
In a while,
Yeah,
like
I can't hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us
There
a
you
little
go.
bit about this.
So that is called Red Line Veterans. Red Line Veterans of Washington Escobedo, and that one came about. How I came into it, I had found I was collecting some photographs to give to my cousin. He wanted a bunch of photographs. So I ran around to different family members and say, hey, our other cousin wants some photos. Can you give me some and I'll go make some copies of it. Then I'll give it to him. And so I was talking to my uncle Willie, and he goes, yeah, I got some photograph for you. And he gave me a photograph of a man, and he said that it was his grandfather. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I thought, well, if it's his grandfather, the guy must be something to me. But I kind of waited for my uncle to tell me, but he didn't. So we always grew up, they said, when grown people want you to know something, they'll tell you. So I didn't ask. So I just kept the photo for a long time. Finally, one day I asked my mom, I said, Mom, do you remember this photo? And she couldn't remember. She goes, oh, I don't remember. Mom was like 92 years old. She's like, I can't remember that guy. I'm sorry, honey. And so then I was over at my aunt's house, and I said, Annie, Uncle Willie gave me this photo. He said it was his grandfather. And before I could finish, she said, oh, yeah, that guy, his name was George Washington Davis. He was a Buffalo soldier. He was born into slavery. His mother's name is Pleasant Pope. She was taken from Madagascar and enslaved in Georgia, and she's buried somewhere in Georgia. And I was like, what? And so I was like, oh, so I started doing some research. And I went online and I found his death certificate. And it has his mother's name. Her name is Pleasant Polk. And he is buried in Texas. And so I said, this guy, he was a Buffalo soldier. So I thought, well, how many other veterans do I have in my neighborhood? So that started me looking for other veterans, but it started with my great-grandfather. And then I would talk to, and you saw the documentary, the old guy was in there. His name was Mr. Boyd. And I went to him and I said, Mr. Boyd, who were some of the guys that went to the Army with you? And so he started giving me a bunch of names. And I was like, oh, so I went and started doing research. I looked through newspapers, I looked through microfiche. I went online to Ancestry and looked at their notes. I found some of those little draft cards. I asked other family members, and I started gathering all these names. And so before I did the documentary, I did an exhibit. And I have storyboards with their photos and where they fought. and a little bit of the story. So I worked on the exhibit for it took me about a year to find all these guys, and I find them. I go read newspapers. Some of them I found in books. I find their photo. It just took a while. And then I finally got money to shoot the documentary. I think we shot for 3 days. And
Wow.
Mr. Boyd, Mr. Boyd, that guy's in it. When we shot him, he was 98 years old.
Wow.
And then, because it's been a while since we shot this. It's been about 4 or 5 years ago since we finished shooting. And he died about a year and a half ago. He turned 100 years old. And then 3 days later, he passed away.
Mm.
And so that one's in post-production. I have a rough assembly of it all. And we're going through that right now. But then I made another discovery. One guy in my neighborhood was a veterinarian. And he fought in the Spanish-American War. And so he also raced horse racers. He was like trotters. So I'm going up north to Flagstaff, where he used to work at this camp. And they've got a book with a bunch of stuff in it. And they told me I can come and look at it and make some copies. Right now, the assembly that we put together is about 63 minutes. And we need to cut some stuff and add some stuff. And one of my favorite stories is the woman talked about meeting Obama. Her husband was like a true live Rambo. Manuel Mendoza, this guy, and we tell his story in the documentary. He went there. He was fighting in Italy, and somehow he got cut off from everybody else, and he was by himself. And there was like 100 Germans coming after him. He was fighting them off by himself, and he used handguns, machine guns, bazookas, grenades, and a flamethrower, and he fought these guys off and got out of there. And I'm like, that's like something from a movie, man. And so he passed away, unfortunately, when he came back here, but they gave them the Valor of Honor from President Obama. And we have that footage when his wife was at the White House. His story, I love that story kind of guy. So we've got some great stories to tell. So that one's coming along pretty good. Actually, I'm meeting with the editor next week because we're going to make some tweaks. And then I'm going to share it with the D-Word.
What are you going to, how are you going to distribute? Like, what's your idea to show this particular film to who? Who's your audience?
I've been talking to some partners like the American Legion, VFW. Again, the universities, they already want it right now. They're like, hey, when you finish it, we want to license it to put in our library. And I've been talking to some conferences, and they're like, when you finish it, we want you to come and show it. And then I think it probably will land on PBS. I think we can get it there. I think it'll be either PBS or the History Channel, because people love stories about veterans, and veterans of color. You don't see enough story about them. So that's kind of my plan with that. It's looking pretty good. Like I said, I'm meeting with the editor next week. We're going to make some cuts, some changes. The biggest challenge with that is the historical footage it's expensive. It's really expensive. We have a lot of stuff from World War II, World War I. So we gotta pay for that stuff. You don't have to pay to use it, but you have to pay for the copies because it's in public domain. So I think the copies are expensive, and we have a lot of it we're using. A lot of it. And then we have some footage from one of my guys was stationed the Arizona, New Mexico border in 1915. And I have footage from there, and you see them walking, and then they're on horses. This is before World War I, and you see that. So we've got some black and white footage of that. It took a while to find that. God, it took a long time to find that. But the biggest challenge of that is paying for that footage. And we use it, like I say, we use a lot of footage from that. So that's the one that's in progress right now. It's looking pretty good, though. I'm excited.
How do you fund your project for this one?
This one, I was able to get a grant from Gorman and Company. They do affordable housing and development, and I had a relationship with Brian, and so I reached out to him, and they funded enough so I could shoot for 2 days. And then I wrote a grant for another day, and then I wrote another grant to get for the editor, pay the editor. So corporations, private donors, we still need to raise a little more money, but we're just about there.
When you say you go into educational route, for instance, my film is about grassroots movement, and it's about people, it's about volunteerism. How do I start with, like, where do I go? I just flip the yellow book, and no, there's no yellow book anymore. Can you give me a little?
So yours is about grassroots.
Mine is about
what is the
people.
subject?
It's grassroots movement. It's called My Yangon Diary. It's 4 years ago. Andrew Yang was running for president and for primary election. So a lot of people supported him, and I did not know who Andrew Yang was. So I started to follow them, and I shot the whole thing on iPhone 11, and I made a movie. Now it's on Amazon, called My Yangon Diary. So, but it's a 90-minute. So for instance, if I wanted to go, not if, I need to go into educational route, what do I start?
You're looking for your subject, you look for partners, people that would like it. Universities would love your film because there isn't a lot of content about people of color. People are looking for it. If you know anybody at any of the universities, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I've got this film. I knew people at Arizona State University because of some other stuff I did. And so I was able to connect with them. And then you sort of Google your topic. Who is it? Who is in the film? Who are the people that are in the film? People know them. Tell me some of the story. I don't know the story. Tell me the story about your film.
Okay, the story is that Andrew Yang, who was a 45-year-old Chinese, American Chinese person who was not a politician and businessman, he decided he's going to run for primary for Democrat in 2020. So I started to go, people asked me to go shoot some events like rallies, and then I started to shoot, and then I followed the whole movement for a whole year, went to 4 states, 12 cities, just by myself. I didn't think I was shooting a documentary. I was capturing videos. So by the end, when he suspended his campaign, then I ended up with 200 hours of footage. And I started 200. Yeah. 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 Then I start to edit. That's during the pandemic, lockdown started. So I started to edit. Took me 8 months. So the movie is about grassroots movement, why these people support him, how they support him, why I was being sucked in. Like, I had no idea, politically. Yeah. Yeah.
So put it in the link in the chat. I'll watch it tonight. I'll
send you a link. Yeah. I want you to watch my film. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would go back to those grassroots people that you talked to. And have you talked to any of his team? Are they still around?
His team, I don't. His campaign team, I don't. Andrew Yang, I know him. He knows me by first name now. And I have the whole film was shot, in almost a year. So I know all my people. So there's about 100 people involved in this project. And I interviewed like 50, 60 people. So I know them by first name, and so they're all in my film credits. So I do still contact a few people around me. Yeah. So the film got like 3 best feature documentaries in 3 countries: in Toronto Documentary Film Festival, Film Festival of Manhattan, and film things in Rome. So yeah, so I did not go to special, uh, what do you call, distribution route. I just went to apply for Film Hub, and then Film Hub put my film on Amazon a year ago, and obviously we're not making money, Yeah.
I definitely would contact universities, like the Asian Chamber of Commerce.
Oh,
If there's one in every city, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I've got this film. And they'll go, what? They'll want to know. All of those communities, they want to see films like that. And then you should reach out to PBS, NETA, NETA. You should submit to them. They would love your film. It's how long is it? 90 minutes?
right now it's 90. I can cut it into 57. If I have
Well,
to.
it might fit in their 2-hour slot.
Oh, okay.
They,
And
so yeah, but I would reach out.
Ron in the
Yeah.
audience, right? Ron is my filmmaker friend. Ron always recommended, also say you should go reach the college educational, because it's a really
College.
detailed. It's a detailed the thing. You probably, not a lot of people don't even know what is canvas like. So this canvas is in New York City, in Connecticut, and also we went to Iowa in the snow, and also in New Hampshire. I went to 3 weeks. So you can see so many details, how people do it, why they do it, and yeah, with a lot of testimony, and so it's
Oh,
and it
absolutely.
flows really
I
well.
would.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it tonight. I'm gonna watch it. You definitely universities and go to someone who's doing Asian studies at the university. Say, hey, I've got this great film, and you should have them see it. So again, I can come in and show you. I can license it to the library. Do some screenings for them. All those places, like I said, I'm going to probably pull mine from Amazon because it works better when I privatize it and screen it. But yours, yeah, I'm gonna watch it tonight. It's a great subject. I think there's people out there. You need to just go online and try to partner with different organizations, because most cities have like a sort of Asian district.
Yeah.
I would go there and start talking to them. Asian Chamber of Commerce is the first place I would go. Say, hey, I have this film. I want to do a screening for you guys.
And
But
it's not
charge
really
them.
about
Don't do it.
Asian though. It's not really about Asian. It's just happened to be Andrew Yan was American born, but his parents from Taiwan, and I am from Shanghai. So it is more about grassroots movement, volunteerism, and all kinds of color people supporting this American Chinese guy, and I don't know, but I think right now is a good time. I don't want to talk myself too much. Right now is because it's still we're in the election year, right? So
Yes.
I think it's fascinating to me. Still, I'm looking at I edited and I still look at it. I just can't believe like how people were so passionate about this, about him, so and they did the best they can. But anyway,
I will be watching it tonight.
oh,
I'm gonna
okay,
tune in tonight and watch it.
I'll send it to you. Yeah. So we're almost at the time. Do you have any other things we should show to our audience before we
We have
go?
one more, Matriarchs of Washington Park. I think you have that. It's a short I
Okay.
did.
Major.
This
Oh
one's
yeah,
really cool. This one,
Matrix Digital. Okay.
yeah, you can pull
Is
that
this
up.
the one?
This is
This the one,
that's
right?
it. Beautiful. Let me
Okay.
show that.
Okay. So you want to tell us what it is before we? Oh, should we talk about after?
Let's show it first.
Oh, okay. All right. Mute yourself, please, dear.
Who am I? God made me. Who am I? God saved me. He has given me the power to to do what he wants of me. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman, hear me pray. I am sanctified to say, I am a woman, ain't no doubt. I know my God will bring me out. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman of God's own heart. Who am I? I am forgiven. Who am I? I am restored. God has given me his love to do all things in him. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman, hear me pray. I am sanctified to say, I am a woman, ain't no doubt. I know my God will bring me out. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman of God's own heart. I am a woman of God's own heart.
So, what is this? Tell us.
So this is called Matriarchs of Washington Park, the women who persevered through racism and misogyny in the segregated community. Because after I did the veterans documentary, I thought, I really need to talk about the women, because the women really held everything together in my neighborhood. So all those women there, I knew as a kid. I knew them around. Some of them were teachers and everything. And so I looked at women that were born in the 1920s and earlier. I thought that was a great cutoff. And so I have an exhibit that tours their live portraits, their paintings, and never tell a story. And that's a mini documentary. I'm still raising money to do that because I want to interview some of the family members so they can tell the stories about their matriarch. And we have a discussion like, well, what is a matriarch? How do you become a matriarch? What qualifies someone to become a matriarch? And that's part of the big discussion around that one. And we're going to be doing some more paintings. We have about 40 paintings. I'm going to be doing some more. I have commissioned 3 artists to do the portraits, and really just want to tell their stories. And you read some of their stories. Some of them I think are really, really great. One of my favorite stories is Minnie Briscoe. She was, hang on one second.
Well, while Bruce is having probably a phone call coming in, and I want to thank all of you for being with us. Go backwards, Ron, thank you so much. And Shokfin, thank you for being with us. Patricia,
Sorry about that.
hello. That's okay.
The
I'm
phone
just
was ringing.
thanking our audience.
Oh, I had to turn the phone off. Oh, thank you, audience, for coming. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Shokfin. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, people who are listening to us, not appearing at the comment area, because I know some people do not write. We really appreciate it. And thank you for people who will listen to this replay later. And yeah, thank you for, yeah. So continue. What were you saying?
So I think of Minnie Briscoe, who was like really pushing the community when the community was under siege to be gentrified. Her and her friends, they pushed back and said, look, we're not going to leave here. We're going to stay here. You're not going to kick us out. She was being interviewed by a local newspaper, and she was 102 years old when they talked to her. And so she said, look, and they organized, and they went down to City Hall, and they talked to the council members, they talked to the mayor. You can't just move me out of my house. And they won. So the community is still there. And then about 6 months later, she turned 103. They gave her the key to the city.
Wow. Wow. That's
so
awesome.
That I think was fabulous. She was really known in the community for being, her husband was one of a World War I veteran, very outspoken man. So I love that story. It turns out that that's my aunt, Minnie Briscoe.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Small world. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I love that story. I think that's a good story.
yeah, I can't wait to see it. And yeah, I'm gonna put some of the trailer links in description below. And yeah, thank you for being my guest, Bruce. It's always great to see you. And I pretty much see you on virtually on D-Word almost every week. So yeah, I'll send you the link of my film. And for those of you who are talking about my film, you can see it also in the description. It's called My Yangon Diary. I'll give a link. I can give you, yeah, you can see it on Amazon. You know, you have to pay, Bruce, you have to pay $1.99 to see my film. And I'll pay, I'll see your film. I'll pay $2. We're even. Yeah. Well, last word. Bruce, last word, meaning you include your conclusion of what do you want to say?
I want to say thank you for having me. It's always a joy to talk about the work, and you just got to persevere. And people, please support independent documentary filmmakers. Go watch their films, spread the word, tell the people. And when independent filmmakers are trying to raise money, don't be shy, help them out, because it's stories that don't get told. They don't get to the mainstream. They don't get told. They need to be told. So thank you all for supporting the work that we do. Follow us on Instagram, NEB Productions. I'm always posting stuff there. My website, nebproductions.com. Just follow me, host me, and we'll be back soon talking about the latest projects that I'm working on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, my last word is, I always have this phrase, do that one thing. One thing will lead to another. Right, Bruce?
I like that.
Okay, all right, we're gonna end here and have a great weekend and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and yeah, keep cool. Especially Bruce, you're in the hot city.
Yeah,
okay.
It's 115 today. Thank you. Happy 4th of July is coming up. 4th of July is coming up, so celebrate.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. Okay, good night. So Bruce, you can just push leave studio, and everybody, good night. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'll leave studio.